we're moving into my very next conversation, because when we talk about pregnancy, we often focus on how a woman looks, but not all necessarily that look well are nourished, right? And the reality in Ghana is very concerning. Studies have shown that more than half of the pregnant women in Ghana are anemic, and some cases are over 90%. Listen, it is essential and it's very important that we have this conversation, because a lot of them are not taking enough essential nutrients like iron and calcium. Now, what's even more interesting is that many of these women are actually eating, but they are not eating right. So the issue isn't always about the food, the quantity, it's about the quality. And then we also have cultural practices, food restrictions, and even habits like eating clay. All of us, you've heard that pregnant women eat clay. What's the tree name? Chile? Ayelo? Yes, they're eating clay just because they call it cravings, all of which can affect both the mother and the baby. So today we are asking a very important question. Are we truly nourishing our mothers or just feeding them? Joining me to help me get into this conversation is Dietitian Nii from Nii Nutrition Consults. Now, before he walks in here, the band will play us a song so he can walk in. So, are we ready? Yeah. The band, are we ready? All right, so let's play something so that Dietitian Nii can come in and we get into the conversation. Okay. Hey.
Yes, sir. Listen. Send me one, now and then. Send me one, now to kumyo. Oh, send me one, now I'm now I'm now I'm mine. Why I kumyo? Why I kumyo?
That the party just got started. Dietitian Nii tried to run away from my dancing, but don't worry, we'll get into the conversation later. Listen, if you're at home, this is the time for you to send us your messages, 055-157-5757. Your wife is pregnant, your sister is pregnant, your friend is pregnant. Please send us messages to ask all about nutrition, okay? Now let's get into it. Hi. Hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Why were you, running away from my dancing? You have two left legs, eh?
I'm trying. I'm not used to this. But
don't worry, all right. Let's get into the real reason we're here. Dietitian. Yeah. When it comes to pregnancy, I'm intrigued by it. Yeah. Also because it has people acting in very different ways. And also I feel like people use pregnancy as an excuse to do a lot of things they're not supposed to. So when we say nutrition, from a professional standpoint, is it proper nutrition, or is proper nutrition during pregnancy crucial, and why?
Yeah, so I think we can use some numbers to justify that. Right. So we realize that we are losing a lot of mothers when it comes to pregnancy. And pregnancy is a high risk, something that is high risk. Let's look at how pregnancy occurs. It's something that we don't even understand. Throughout the whole 9 months journey, this is a high risk something. And if you don't take care, you can easily lose the baby or lose the mother or even lose both. That makes it very crucial. And we've lost a lot of mothers because of some of these issues. As I said, even we have a lot of pregnant women who have low levels of iron, and iron is very important when it comes to pregnancy. So in this case, you realize that some of these things could result in death of a mother or a baby, and this makes it very risky.
Now, let's look at the nutrients when it comes to pregnancy again. Like you said, if not taken properly, we are losing mothers. And this is not just about what we see and what we hear. We have numbers to show, like you just said. What type of nutrients are important and must have when it comes to pregnancy journey?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to pregnancy, we can't pinpoint only one. There's a whole. That is why we always talk about balanced nutrition, having a collective or different nutrients from different sources. So when we start from the macros, the bigger portion ones. So we have the carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates includes the starches, the rice, the yam, the wache, the banku, and all that. We have vegetables under the same carbohydrate section. So your contomere, that the boma, all these ones are also there. Then also we have fruits. So the fruits contain essential vitamins and minerals that are very good for the immune system of pregnant women. Mind you, so when you get pregnant, the body suppresses its own immunity. If you don't do that, what happens is that the body will probably locate the baby as something like a foreign material and end up fighting the baby. So in God's own wisdom, He reduces your immunity as a woman so that you can accommodate the baby. In this case, what happens is that if you don't boost your own immune system, what you eat, then what happens is that you may have a low immune system. Now, beyond the macros, as I mentioned earlier, fats and oil, so we have good fats, also very good for the development of the child. So realize that it's a balanced nutrition. And when it comes to the macros, that are the smaller nutrients, most of them are tied to some of these bigger ones. Let me give you an example, like the carbohydrate that comes from vegetables. So your green leaf vegetables will contain folate and also iron. So you see the same vegetable from the carbs also comes with some micronutrients. So if your macros are well balanced, I'm sure that the micros will be taking care of it. Yes.
That means it has to be balanced.
Very balanced.
Now, there's this very popular thing that a lot of pregnant women say. When you meet a pregnant woman in the morning and she's eating banku. In fact, it's not one ball, like 4 balls of banku. And you approach her. The first thing she will tell you is, I'm eating for 2. It's a popular thing that they say. So pregnant women are eating at wee hours of the night. They're calling it cravings. I'm eating for 2. I mean, for expectant mothers, is this, what is that? What even fuels that?
Yeah, so there's also a hormonal imbalance in pregnancy, which also leads to some of these things. But let's talk about the eating for 2. So it's a myth. Ideally, the child is not fully grown to have a whole meal, right? So when it comes to pregnancy, the calories you need for the first trimester, when we say the first trimester, the first 3 months, is the average one that you take as somebody who's not pregnant. Now, as you get to the second and to third trimester, we add about 200 to 300 calories in addition to what exactly you're eating. So realize that you don't need much to eat. But sometimes the thing is that prior to pregnancy is something that we don't really talk about, what we call the planning before pregnancy, pre-pregnancy care. That is where you control all your cravings for sugary foods. You get cravings in pregnancy, but before pregnancy, if you're able to manage these things, you don't really fall into those ditches. You don't eat huge amounts of food. When it comes to eating the portions, you're not supposed to eat so much portions when it comes to pregnancy. And that makes that one a myth. There's a challenge here. So one thing is that if you eat so more like huge portions of food as a pregnant woman, you tend to gain excess weight. So realize that for the same pregnant woman, your risk for having what we call gestational diabetes, that's diabetes in pregnancy, is also very high. You would also have issues where the baby that you want to give birth to grows very big to the extent that you can't do the normal delivery, but you have to go through CS. And certain times too, some pregnant women have excess weight. So after pregnancy, they still have a lot of weight to lose and all that. And it's as a result of the way they eat during pregnancy. But as I said earlier, prior to pregnancy, if you can really plan yourself, take you through some healthy living journey, healthy eating journey, when you get to pregnancy, you don't really have those things worrying like that.
But Dietitian Nii, have you seen that you just said that it's backed by hormones?
Yeah.
You think you can come between a pregnant woman and her food? Because you walk into a space, like I said, early in the morning, you go to a gobe joint. Sometimes you see them when they're going for antenatal, right? They get to the hospital, you're about to see the doctor, they tell you that Dr. Siminko Didi. And when you get there and you see what is in front of a pregnant woman, she has some kenke, 4 balls of kenke, she has 4 fishes, 2 fried eggs, she has 1 corned beef, 1 sardine, 1, what else do they put on their food? It's assorted, and when you take it away, they may get angry with you because they tell you, if I don't take it, something is happening to me.
Yeah, you see, I'm talking out of evidence. The life you live before pregnancy is very important, and I've seen it in practice, and that is why I keep saying, keep drumming it, that prior to getting pregnant, the preparation towards your wedding should include what we call pre-pregnancy care. As you're planning to buy the wedding gown, to go for the vacations, there are some labs you're supposed to do so. Because sometimes people get pregnant some few days after their honeymoon and all that. But have you planned? Have you checked your blood levels, your HB levels? Have you checked your risk for diabetes? Have you done like your scan of your ovaries and all that? These things we don't really have those conversations. But ideally, even as a woman, at least you're supposed to see the gynae once or twice in a year. But how many women try to see the gynae? So these are some of the things that when you do, you prepare yourself. Yes, you have very huge cravings, but the thing here is this: if you're able to control your cravings before pregnancy, trust me, you will not crave for these huge things.
But what happens to those whose cravings cannot be satisfied? So for instance, someone wakes up in the morning, says that I don't want to eat anything. I'll eat at 3 p.m. At 3 p.m. it's banku I want. And let's say by 7 p.m. I want fufu. And I'm only asking that because sometimes I feel it's dramatic, but I'm not a doctor. Right? And I've never been pregnant before. So for those who are literally crying, some men complain that if my wife says I want this at this time and I don't get it for her, she can't sleep. She won't be able to do anything. She will cry. So is it that you're being dramatic, or once again, it's hormones?
Yeah, I wouldn't say dramatic. You see, pregnancy, the journey is a bit, let me borrow the word funny. When I say funny, we can relate to it. It's not something you can really determine some of these things. For some first-time mothers, they have this whole world of new things. As they get the second and third pregnancy, things change and all that. So please, what I would say is that, yes, they may have some cravings at certain points in time, but there's a way we go about it. Let me give an example. Okay. If a pregnant woman wants to eat banku in the morning, I don't think it's a problem. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem.
In the morning?
Yes.
6 a.m.?
So let me explain something to you. So you see, breakfast is basically the first meal of the day. The type of breakfast you eat depends on your energy levels. So let me give an example. Somebody at the office and somebody on the construction site. These are two different people with two different energy levels. And I'd expect to give somebody scrambled eggs and let's say warm milk or with Lipton to somebody who's going to raise blocks. Somebody sits at the office, basically the energy levels is not as compared to somebody on the construction site. These are some of the things we need to know. People's preferences. There's somebody who wants to go for British breakfast. For breakfast, I want to go for something local. That is my preference. That is why I keep telling people that let's not put a ruler or a rule behind breakfast and say this is, no. If the woman wants to have banku and okra stew as breakfast, so there's a way you go about it that's supposed to be balanced. How much greens is it supposed to have? How much stew or soup are you giving to the person? How much starch are you giving to the person? There should be protein added to the meal. Well balanced, that's a person's breakfast, and that's fine. You don't have to tell the person because you are pregnant, you drink tea. No, the person is craving for something. How do you make it more balanced and very healthy for the person? And that is, we are done. So you see how simple it is.
It's not that simple.
It's very simple.
Because someone is calling you at 1 a.m. Baby, wake up. I want wache at Taifa. There's wache in the area. Why Taifa?
No, so you see, for me personally, I've heard some of these things. That's why I'm saying that it's not common like that. Just once, like you can see it, let me say 1 in 20 or something women can have that funny cravings. However, there's a way we manage it. Right. So how do you manage cravings in pregnancy? First of all, make sure there's always healthy alternatives available. Right. So you know that, example, you can have some soups in the fridge. Probably what she's craving for is something peppery. Okay. But what she can think about is wache. If you can provide something that is quite closer, sometimes they manage it. Sometimes, even in the evening, all they want is chicken. Just add some spices, some peppery spices to the chicken, cut it, and they will have it for the evening, and they are fine. So if you have healthy alternatives available, and I keep saying that these things are expressions of your previous lifestyle, and I keep saying this thing. Why do I say this? If you can go back to how you eat before you get pregnant, a lot of things can be corrected. So
how can pregnant women go back to what they were eating before? Because sometimes, like you said, you have to it's pre-planning, telling yourself, okay, I'll suppress this one just because I'm trying to.
But in pregnancy, you don't suppress cravings.
You don't?
No. So you provide, let me give you an example. A pregnant woman wants to go for something you think is not healthy for the pregnant woman. You provide alternatives to the person. So let me give an example. I want to have something chilled and I want to go for malt, right? And probably because of the sugar content in malt at that time for my pregnancy level, mind you, I'm not saying malt spike sugars. Probably the pregnant woman, as I'm saying, the hormonal imbalances will lead to low levels of insulin and other things. So the little thing they take may spike their sugars. You can provide something different. I can provide sobolo, right, with no, let's say, just some small amount of pineapple as sugar inside, and it's still chilled. And so you see the same malt and something quite different. and the person can go for the soup.
Right.
If the person can have something that has a good amount of sugar and not spike the sugars at that time, give to the person.
Right.
It's not that difficult. Yes.
I wish I could say that, but well, let's get into into more of that, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about how their cravings cannot be suppressed. So for those who take the clay, like the chile, the ayelos, the people are eating sand. I personally know a woman who would go into a building, one that is
the old
construction,
ones.
yes, not even
the
old,
new ones.
The new ones.
And they just want to smell the
They want the cement.
Or the
Some are
smell.
chewing cement. That's also their craving. So if you say it can't be suppressed for someone who is doing this, which is clearly unhealthy, what's the substitute?
Okay, so let's look at the thing. So what we're talking about is a food safety concern. Now, let me clearly state that there are some food safety concerns in pregnancy, if it's not carefully managed, can lead to what we call miscarriages, can lead to early birth, that's you give premature birth, can even lead to stillbirth. So before you even give birth, the child is already dead. It's a result of some of these things. So let me give an example. So you see the sand, the clay you're talking about. There are some bacteria that can be found in sand, and these bacteria can lead to the death of a baby. So that's why the clay thing we're talking about is very dangerous. Yes, some people may survive it, but others may not survive it. That's and the bad thing is that some of these clay things we're talking about, the bacteria inside, no matter how you even keep it in colder regions, will not die. Some of the bacteria even survive extreme heat. That is why you need to be very mindful of these things. And the same clay things sometimes produce certain infections that can lead to low levels of iron in pregnant women. So it's a big issue. What I'll say is that the cravings in pregnancy, yes, it comes. But there's a way sometimes you have to talk to the person, and also, as I say, provide alternatives. Let me give an example. You see, sometimes they just want to chew something, not necessarily clay. They are just bored and want to chew something. You can provide them with some nice, let's say nuts. Okay, let me give an example. So you see, if you have a microwave at home, you see the nuts, like the normal peanuts and let's say corn. You can pop it and add a little margarine to it. You see the smell can also help them. So you see, the whole thing is that the pregnancy journey is a bit, I keep using the word funny, sorry about, but it's a bit different from the normal living. Sometimes they just want to smell something nice, that's all. If you can pop this corn I'm talking about, add a little margarine, a little something nice to just make it smell nice, and they smell these things and they just want to chew. Sometimes even ice cubes. You can decide to just put some small ice cubes and just want to munch on these things.
But what is it about the scent? Because sometimes it's the scent. I'm telling you, someone wants specifically one thing.
You see, that thing too is also, in some evidence, it shows that there's a micronutrient deficiency in the pregnant woman.
Really?
You see why I keep saying that if you eat healthy before pregnancy, a lot of things will be corrected. That's the secret behind some of these things.
So it's not dramatic.
So
take me to the public toilet, that's why I'll be okay. It's not.
No, so I'm not saying it's not dramatic. I'm saying that we can prevent some of these things or reduce the occurrence of these things if we put them through a good, healthy living journey. And as I'm saying, some cravings, as some evidence has said that it can be caused by some micronutrient deficiencies, and it can lead to these things. Yes. So if we can be able to go through that route, I think it's going to help.
Well, we're still having this conversation. Dietitian Nii is here. If you're a pregnant woman, you have a question you want to ask, please do that. Send your messages 055-157-5757. Again, 055-157-5757. Now, another myth. I don't think it is a myth because you did mention that there's weight gain at a point. Some pregnant women are suppressing what they eat. Some are in the gym from the day they find out they're pregnant through to the last day they're in the gym. And we see them on TikTok, on social media. Someone says, I don't want to gain any weight. Does the weight gain, whether you eat well or not, would you gain some weight?
Yes, so pregnancy in general, the journey comes with some weight addition. So let me explain this. So for the general public education, what I would say is that on average, we're expecting that the pregnant women will gain between 10 to 12.5 kg in addition to their weight. However, if a woman's weight is underweight, the weight we expect you to gain is higher. If you have a healthy weight, it also have its own range. If you're obese already, we're expecting you to gain between 7 to, let's say, 10.5. You see, so the range for weight gain for every person varies from person to person, depending on your pre-pregnancy weight. That means before you get pregnant, what was your current weight before you get pregnant? The journey, yes, you're supposed to gain some weight, and the weight is not only the baby. So the baby is part of it. You see the fluid that covers the baby, it also brings some weight. You see the placenta also comes with some weight. The other thing, there's some fat you also gain that also help with the stimulation of breast milk. All these things also come with some weight. So if you say you don't want to gain weight, where are we stand? Are you going to eat into your own normal stores? But one thing I'll say is this: exercising during pregnancy is not a bad thing, but the type of exercises you do is very important. Right. You don't do exercises that will put a lot of pressure on the abdominal region, because that's where the whole pregnancy is forming. If you do that, some strenuous exercises during the first trimester can lead to miscarriage and all of that. But there are other exercises you can do as a pregnancy. There are some yoga exercises. All these exercises, what it does is that it helps strengthen your core muscles, your pelvic floors. So when you're going to give birth, it becomes very easy and all that. Exercises are also very important because it keeps you the woman very active, prevents your sugar levels from going high, also makes you very active, and also makes you, like, your brain function is also very good. It also helps the baby too inside. So we're not saying you shouldn't exercise, but what type of exercise are you doing? Is a medical doctor aware of it? Is the gynae aware of it? So you don't just go to any fitness trainer that knows how to exercise, but you go to somebody who's trained, who understands the journey of a pregnant woman. Because there's a first trimester exercise, the second trimester exercise. A woman who has twin has different exercises. All these things are there, and they are backed by evidence. So you can still exercise, but know the type of exercise you do, and you're good to go.
So those who are eating once a day,
I personally would not recommend, because our pregnancy goes beyond you as a mother. There's a child there. Now the child needs nutrients on every day, every count, to be able to grow. Remember, the child is growing through different stages. Right. It comes from a clot, moves to certain stages from the embryo and all that to form. Now in the formation period, there's a lot of nutrients that are required. We need good amount of fat, we need iron levels, we need energy and all that, we need proteins. So if you are starving yourself, what happens is this: now the body has to go to your stores as a woman and be dipping into your stores, calcium stores, and we don't. That's what we're expecting. We want you to have a balanced nutrition. So I wouldn't say a pregnant woman should just take 1 meal a day. No, we can give you what we call the small frequent meals. So we can give you smaller portions that are nutrient dense in the morning and other things. So example, a woman who has let's say they have poor appetite and they're vomiting and all of that. Yes, we can give you something in the morning, not necessarily a whole meal. We can give you a nice juice, but a woman who's healthy with no complications, that's what I want to say. We can give you some juice that contains ginger or mint leaf to suppress down the appetite. We can give you something that has a lot of pepper. So that's what I'm saying. I can give you grilled chicken that has been seasoned with pepper. You can have that with just like a small amount of juice in the morning. As I'm saying, for a healthy pregnancy, not pregnancy with other complications. If there is a pregnancy that have high blood sugars, the kind of breakfast we also give you also going to be different. But what I would say is that the backbone is that it's supposed to be balanced. So you're supposed to have a little carbs there, a little protein there, a little fat. You're good to go. And it's very simple. And that's what we can do.
So, moving away from all of that, let's come to the bad habits people practice again.
Yeah.
We've heard, I personally have heard, that pregnant women are drinking or are taking in supplements because they want their children to look a certain type of way. Oh, me bano PS soy bruni. So they're drinking or they're taking in supplements to have the child look a certain way. Yeah. Someone says, if my baby comes out and they are not chubby, I don't want. So they are drinking oil. Yeah. Oh, have you heard? Like, people are taking oil into their system, raw oil. Someone is taking supplements, someone is taking things that bleach the skin just so that their baby comes out a certain type of way.
Yeah, but let's use science here. So, first of all, how the baby looks or how they come, there's a lot of factors. There's a genetic factor. So the genetic factor comes from you, the parents. That we have something coming from you, coming from the man comes. That also determines how your baby looks. There are also external factors. Example, somebody who has a high blood sugars and didn't manage well can also affect the formation of a baby. You've seen babies that they've given birth with no arms and all those things. There are also exposure to certain chemicals, right? It could be chemicals you consume and all that. Those can affect the formation of a baby. So how your baby looks, there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. What I would say to mothers is this: If you want a fair baby, you go for a man who has a fair complexion. Basically that. But what I'll say is that if you want to control how your baby looks and all that, please, it's not about drinking other things that we don't know. Because it will be very painful to go through 9 months and give birth to a baby that has no arms. It's very painful because imagine you've gone through the whole 9 months and the baby comes and the formation of the baby doesn't look like what you're expecting. These are some of the things that lead to what we call the postpartum depression. They get depressed throughout the whole period. And some mothers can be very suicidal at that point. But it's some of the actions that we are taking. Just have a balanced nutrition. See your gynecologist, go for antenatal, take your prenatal vitamins, and you'll be fine. The baby you have is a very correct baby that you can go with. You don't need all these funny things that we have mentioned. I use the word funny because it doesn't make sense for you to take all those supplements. What is affects your baby? You have babies that have hole in hearts from the beginning. Right. I'm not saying that is a cause, but there are some external factors that have been triggered by maternal actions, and it's not helping. Right. Yes.
So now behind me, there is a chart. It says that my pregnancy plate. Yeah. So where do we start from?
You want to stand?
No, you can. Please show me.
Okay.
So you don't have to stand. You can tell me.
Okay.
So how do we do it?
Yes. So I'm going to simplify this to a normal Ghanaian plate. Okay. Let's translate this into Ghanaian plate. So you see where the group of vegetables and fruit are. Let's limit it to only vegetables. So a pregnant woman who wants to eat banku, that could be your okra soup. Right, you see there's a little oil. I'm seeing some oil somewhere. I'm not seeing oil somewhere. So okay, oil, no.
Just
oil is
here.
inside. Okay.
So you can please move to the screen.
So yes. So let's make this plate look like a Ghanaian plate.
Okay.
So we have banku and okra soup, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say we have some tilapia. Mm-hmm. Now, so realize that a huge portion of your plate is the vegetables.
Right.
And this is what we call the powerhouse.
Okay.
This is what gives the dietary fiber, gives the greens and iron that you need a pregnant woman. It also gives a dietary fiber because pregnant women sometimes can have constipation. Mm-hmm. So this should have a chunk of your plate. So if you have your okra soup here and then boma is inside, it looks a little bit stretchy when you're eating. At least your enemies can see you're eating banku. It looks very stretchy. Right. That's fine. Now we have this side. This side can give at least 1/4 of the plate. So your starches. So if you want to have your okra soup with boiled yam, that's fine. You can have it with, let's say, pounded yam, because I've eaten pounded yam with okra soup before and it's nice. Mm. You can have your banku. Now banku, I'll say that as Ghanaians, let's not limit ourselves to banku. Now fonio is available. You can use fonio for banku.
Right.
All these things are Asian grains you can also have. That's here. That's over here. Now you can just use this portion as our protein. So fish, chicken, egg. If you are vegan, you can go for the tofu and the mushrooms. And this is a simple, healthy plate. Now, do you realize that the oil is outside?
Right.
This is the reason. We don't need so much oil in our meals. We don't need so much. So just a little. So when you see somebody who has a whole pool of oil on top of their meal, that's deadly. I see that to be dead. It's a very fast way to kill yourself. At least just a small amount, a teaspoon or a tablespoon of oil on top of the oil is fine. That is why every time we put this thing somewhere. Now, I'm saying that avoid junk and fast food. There's a reason. Now, most of these things do not contain any nutrients. All they contain is oil. Let me give you an example.
So loaded fries.
So the loaded fries, I'm going to explain how the loaded fries looks like. The loaded fries, most of the time, the oil that they used to cook, have you seen the oil before?
Yes, it is oil.
The color of the oil is usually black. Now, that is not a high quality oil.
Right.
These are some of the issues that causes cancer. I'm not saying that directly. They are also part of the contributing factors.
There. Yes.
There's also a lot of creams and a lot of other things. These things are high in sodium. If these things become your lifestyle, you and hypertension is very closer. And that's also killing us. So, and also a lot of oil, a lot of sodiums, a lot of refined carbs. There's no dietary fiber inside. Look at a loaded fries, right? If you look at a loaded fries, it has a lot of energy. So much energy.
Yes.
And a corporate worker like me who does 95, who does 95?
Energy, yeah.
Yes, 95. I don't need a lot of energy. So you see, these things are not really. And it said, make sure that you take fish oil. Now, this is a very good oil for mothers, and this is very good for the baby. And the fish oil, if you don't get it in your meals, chia seeds has a good amount of omega-3 fatty acids. Very good for the babies. So let's have a breakfast too. Now, on the same plate, I want to have a breakfast. What kind of breakfast do you want to go for?
Oats.
Oats. So oats is basically your starch, right? So oats can be here.
Okay.
Now, if I want to have my oats, I can still have a little milk If you have you're lactose intolerant, you go for almond milk or plant-based milk. Can have, see, it's not so huge, so a little over here. Now, it doesn't mean if you're having oats, you can have some vegetables. You can have some stir fry. Vegetables doesn't mean cabbage and those Brussels sprouts, an expensive one. If you have dandelion at home, you can cut dandelion, and that will be here. If you have some boiled eggs, right? You don't need extra carbs unless you need a lot of high energy. You can add some bread. But with the oat milk, and I have my, let's say, some 2 eggs, and I have my dandelion here, that's a complete split.
Right.
Very high.
So you don't really have to break the bank to eat.
That's why I keep saying that.
Right.
Let's not waste a lot of money going to the fancy restaurant.
Now, can we substitute fish oil for castor oil? Because another oil that we hear a lot of pregnant women mention is castor oil.
Castor oil. So that is something I have just a few information about, so I can't really justify that.
Right.
But for the fish oil, and you see, let me talk about anchovies. You see, there's, how do you say it? Anchovies is the Keta schoolboys or something.
Yes, the Keta schoolboys.
Do you know that the amount of oil, the good oils inside is higher than tilapia?
Really?
So you see, that's why I keep saying that.
The 1,000.
That is high in omega-3 fatty acids.
Right.
So as a pregnant woman, right, if you want to make a stew, you can have them in your stew. That will be a very good amount of omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. It's one of the fish sources that have good amount of oil, so high as compared to the big fishes we see. And that is how simple our meals can look. So
a pregnant woman's food should look like what is on the right. This one has some tilapia, it has vegetables on there. I feel like the greens are even more. So it has some fish. I assume that is a swallow of a sort. Maybe it could be eba. Some eggs, kontomire. I see a pear. I see watermelon. I don't know what this is.
But you see, if a pregnant woman eats like this would be too much.
This is a lot?
This is a lot. So, but you see, this is how a pregnant woman can eat it. So, for us not to, remember there's hormonal imbalances. If you don't take care, the risk of sugar levels will be high. We're talking about food that a person can eat as a lifestyle during the 9 months. So what we can advise is, we can take the fruit out and use it as a snack. Like 2 to 3 hours of a meal, which is fine. So you can have a very good complete meal and all that. I think the 2 varied proteins is fine. Realize that there's an extra, there's a vegetable-based sauce. I don't know, it looks like a Nigerian sauce, but I don't know, but it's like this, so it's fine. Let's take the fruit out, so at least we can control the amount of energy the pregnant one takes. I think that aside, avoid, because the bottled drinks have a lot of added sugars, and they come with low amount of nutrients, usually 0. So that will not be good for a pregnant woman. We have a lot of fried chicken and all that. I personally wouldn't recommend fried chicken. If you can grill a chicken, that's also a very good one. Now, you see the sausages and the other processed meats. And those ones contain some amount, they can contain, there's a possibility they can contain some bacteria that's not healthy for pregnant women. So one thing I advise is that sausages, ham, bacon are not healthy. Now, for the meat, if the meat is not cooked properly, they may contain some bacteria that can affect the pregnant woman. So your meat, that means if you're pregnant woman, you want to buy meat outside, you should be careful. If you want to buy egg outside, you should be careful. If you want to buy fish outside, you should be careful. Because of the bacterial source that may come out of it, because sometimes it's not stored properly, and that could affect pregnancy. So please, let's be very careful out there. The fact that you're craving something, someone would stop in the traffic, like pregnant women can have these excuses sometimes, and they end up eating things they're not supposed to. And please, if you buy your meat, make sure that you bring it home and prepare it yourself. Something like that.
Yes. All right. So I have to let you go, but before that, let's put it out there. The nutrients that they should take, foods that can give them nutrition, a good amount, and also some of the healthy things they should do. So I'm going to simplify with this guide. So we have the Ghanaian Women's Guide for Eating Healthy. This is a Ghanaian-based one. There's a meal plan inside that has a lot of information about local foods you can eat, so you can grab some for yourself. Now, beyond this, what I was saying is that, first of all, as a pregnant woman, you need to plan your meals. So plan your meals using the food that are readily available to you that you can also afford. So let me share how pregnant women can plan their meals. So first of all, make a list of foods you want to eat. So what do you want to eat for breakfast? Okay, I want to have oats with scrambled eggs, or I want to have, let's say, awusa koko with some nuts and kose. List them. After you list them, you section them into breakfast, lunch, and supper. You can now realize you have a very simple meal plan. If you can't do it yourself, you can get a dietitian to guide you and all of that.
Aside that, what I advise pregnant women to avoid, they should be able to reduce the amount of food they eat outside because of food safety issues. Yes. It's very bad to see, let's say, a pregnant woman having typhoid. In addition to all the abdominal pain she's already having during pregnancy, you have typhoid too. See, it can be a little bit wicked on the woman's life and all that. So that is what I advise. If you're struggling because of the sugar levels or because of cravings, you can speak to a dietitian, get your diet plan to work with, and I think that'll be fine.
Right. Now, there are a few pregnant women who say, before I made the banku, I have to take in alcohol.
Yes.
What will you tell them?
Yeah, so now the smallest amount of alcohol you take has an effect on your body. What happens is that we have something we call fetal alcohol syndrome. That is a problem that can affect the life of a child as a result of you taking alcohol as a mother, right? So alcohol is a no-no area for the pregnancy because it affects the formation of the body parts of your baby and other things can affect the health of your baby. What I advise is this, please, if you know you are addicted to taking alcohol, before pregnancy, please find a way to correct these things. The last thing I'm going to say is this. A lot of women say, I want my baby to look very big. Mm-hmm. Now, if you give birth to a baby that is very big for their age, I'm aligning big for their age, and it has a very huge weight that is not within a normal range for children, what their risk for developing diabetes and other health conditions later in life is very high.
Right.
So let's not go for chubby babies. Yeah, you can give birth to a child because of genetic factors, but that's fine. But don't put yourself in that situations and you have a healthy pregnancy.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Please, before you go, where can we get this book?
Yes.
And also, I mean, if there's a number you put out there so we can reach you.
Okay. So you want this book. So the number is 020-933-0918. So 020-933-0918. Or you can look for Dietitian Nii on all social media platforms. It's Dietitian Nii. Nii is the guy named Nii. Then get access to this book. It's very good. So every pregnant woman can get access to it.
All right. Please, every pregnant woman, Auntie Mary, Auntie Martha, if you are at home and you are pregnant, don't go and be doing things you're not supposed to do. We want you to have a safe delivery. We want to have a child that is not deformed. And so do well to practice these things. It's your nutritional health that matters to us. We need you to be healthy, strong for us. Okay, well, thank you, Dietitian Nii. I think that you can put your hands together for him. And we hope that pregnant women at home have paid very keen attention to this conversation.